It's race 2 of the weekend here at Misano for the Fanatec European GT2 Series. It is a 50-minute race. The grid is being formed. And we had a really lively race earlier on in the day. Granted, there aren't that many cars for a new category launched this year, and it's still building in popularity and indeed in awareness. But the races that we've had thus far, one here, 2 at Hockenheim and at the start of the season, 2 at Monza, have been very interesting indeed. And just to throw something else at the teams here at Misano, they had one race at the start of the day. This race is going to be getting underway at around 8:15 local time. It means it will be heading into the dusk, if not complete darkness, and it's going to be the AMs that will do that second stint. The pros start. It's going to be the bill payers in most cases who will do the driving duties into the darkness. David Anderson trackside, Gemma Scott down on the grid, and the grid is based on the time set in Q2, the second qualifying session, 1 driver per session, and Bert Langin it is who took a win at Monza with Peter Gellings, who will line up on pole position. Championship-wise, after the race that we had earlier on, Anders Fjordbach and Mark Patterson, who were the winners. They've had 4 wins this year, and that's their blue and white Audi. You can see over the shoulder of the pole position car, there it is. They lead on 112 points. Peter Gellings and Bert Langin 79 to be second in Pro-Am, and Luca Piri and Stefan Rattel third on 72. Christoph Ulrich leads the AMs on 108 points from the 72 of Chris Rosenberger and Hans Stuck. Let's hear, though, from Peter Gellings with Gemma Scott.
Peter, the grid may be fairly small, but this is incredibly close racing, and we saw in race 1 so much action. You guys starting from the front row, hoping to keep clear of some trouble, I imagine.
Yes, I hope so. First race was very tight racing, even for the amateurs, and the pros it's even more competitive, but I trusted my companion to do a good job, and starting from pole, he did a quick lap yesterday, and he'll continue doing that.
Excellent stuff. We'll have a fantastic race and a better pit stop.
Definitely, definitely. We made a judgment error, but it won't happen again.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Guys.
Enjoy the race.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, the pit stop for 81 Audi was one of the talking points of the first race because it was about 30 seconds slower than anybody else's and 30 seconds slower than it needed to be. And apparently the team just completely got the numbers wrong, didn't understand which pit stop time they were referring to. There is a pit stop time which is your normal one. There's also a separate pit stop time if you're changing tyres. And I think that was the one that they read in error. Stefan Rattel there, the brainchild behind the GT2 category, sharing that car with his Italian neighbour Luca Piri. Number 16 KTM, Stefan Rossina to go first. He didn't get a drive in race 1 because Sedi Samani, his co-driver, put the car in the gravel, following suit of number 23, which had also ended up into the gravel. That car in the hands in that stint of Einar Thorsen. Back to Gemma on the grid.
Aurelius, it's great to be chatting to you down here on the grid. Your car is on row 4 or 5, I believe, at the moment. We're looking the other way down the grid into the first corner. How difficult is it into that first turn?
Oh yeah, it's difficult and at the same time not difficult. If everything nice, the whole car moving in one direction is good. But our car is fast anyway. The Porsche will try to catch somebody and to overtake.
It looked fairly hard to handle this morning into the bends, the Porsche.
Yeah, that was real hot, but we have air conditioner. This helped a lot for us, to drive.
Well, I hope this race goes well for you. Have a good one. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aurelius Ristica, who shares the Martini livery Porsche with Michael Berger. He's a great Porsche fan, is Aurelius, who has done limited amounts of racing in Lithuania. There aren't many circuits on which you can race in Lithuania. There's a car that led but retired from race 1. Cedric Lima starts his Lamborghini that he shares with Mauro Casadei. The car had got into the lead, but Cedric rattled it over the curb and did some damage, and it stopped a lap later, so that car didn't finish the opener. And the cars from a rolling start about to be released then. Very shortly, the 15-second board is going to be shown. The countdown will have finished, and if the race director Peter Daly is content, he'll get the cars away. Rolling start, of course, at the end of the lap. They don't stop on the grid, they go straight into the race. The headlights piercing the, not darkness yet, but the light is fading. And it's going to be quite a spectacular end, I think. They had the qualifying yesterday in similar amounts of light to what they're going to have at the end of this 50-minute race. The formation lap underway then. And this is the view on the run down towards the first corner, riding on board the Audi. So Bert Langin starts on pole position, Anders Fjordbach lining up alongside. On the second row of the grid, Luca Piri as Stefan Rossina's KTM for company. On the third row, Peter Cox, who again was denied a drive in the earlier race because his car was off in the gravel, and he will line up alongside Cedric Lima. So you've got KTM and Lamborghini on row 3. Row 4 is Porsche and KTM. Michael Vergers starts there, the Martini liveried Porsche, and Hans-Joachim Stuck, yes, that one, lines up alongside him. And then on the back row, you've got Adrian Spechka's KTM and the similar car of Hubert Trunkenpolz. Now, if you're in the top 3 in your class, you carry a success pit stop into the next race. It means that Bert Langevin has 5 seconds extra in the pits. A pit stop is 1 minute and 37, by the way. 10 seconds extra for Anders Fjordbach, with whom you are riding, and then 7 for Luca Piri on the second row of the grid. In the AMS, 10 seconds to the car on the back row, number 7, Adrian Spechka, 7 to Hans-Joachim Stuck, and 5 to Hubert Trunkenpolz's car. So all of that is going to shuffle the order during the pit stops, and of course place a bit more importance on the drivers in the first stint, the pros, the quicker drivers in most cases, in order to try and stretch that margin to overcome the penalty in the pits. And the safety car, like we had in race 1, soon goes against that. So you can see the cars now wriggling their way up towards the end of the lap. This sequence of corners from turn 11 onwards, it keeps going right with varying degrees of tightness, from a kink to a corner to almost a hairpin, and then the final left at turn 16 brings you onto the pit straight. But there you can see now the efforts that everyone is going to, especially Anders Fjordbach, to get the warmth into the Pirelli rubber. Bert Langevin, the pole position driver, hugely experienced, going back to the FIA GT days of sharing Chrysler Vipers with Anthony Koopman, with Mike Hesmans in Corvettes. Bert Langevin, still one of the gun drivers within this category. Anders Fjordbach, another hugely experienced racer, much younger, but he's done a lot of miles in a short space of time as Anders Fjordbach. And then Luca Piri, likewise, goes back to the FIA GT era, as well as having raced in the Euro NASCAR series. Stefan Rossini on the outside of row 2. Porsche Super Cup racer a few years back, so it's quite a lot of experience in the pointy end of this grid as the cars now turn their way up through turns 13 and 14. So they will this time head to the line. The pace car, as it is out of harm's way. The drivers now then get themselves ready for the rolling start. No, pace car not yet out of the way. It's got them all very tightly bunched, in fact. So that will now dive to the pits on instruction. Yep, peels in, and it's now up to Bert Langevin then on pole position to control the pace. He's got Anders Fjordbach alongside him, and Peter Daly, the race director, will give the instruction to flick the lights from red to green. Race 6 of the Fanatec GT2 European Series underway. 50 minutes of racing is go, and who's going to make the best run then? Down towards turn 1 on the inside line, it's Bert Langevin. On the outside line, the blue and white Audi, Anders Fjordbach slots in behind him. So Langevin leads as the cars now work their way up through turns 1, 2 and 3. That elongated S for the first time. Vergers in the Porsche, fending off the KTMs as there. Adrian Spechka tries to wriggle his way by, but Fjordbach is all over the back of 81. Then Bert Langevin leads, but for how much longer? Fjordbach tries to capitalise, gets up the inside. Contact is just avoided, but Fjordbach looking the quicker. Langevin fending him off, but Fjordbach now looks for a way to run up the inside on the dash down towards turn 8. Langevin tries to cover the move. Fjordbach has a look. Is that going to compromise Langevin's line? Absolutely it is. Forces him deep into the corner. Thank you very much, says Fjordbach. He's up alongside him, but not ahead. He's on the outside line now, going up towards the kink at turn 9 into turn 10, and so Langevin gets back into the race lead. Langevin just ahead. Fjordbach right up behind him then as they blast their way down towards the kink at turn 11 at Curvoni. Speed building all the time here. Foot flat to the board. 6th gear through the right-hander. And only now up towards turn 12 do you start thinking about braking into 13. And it's tight and it's hard braking here. Fjordbach's car just getting away underneath him ever so slightly. Bit of correction needed. They're still on cold tyres, don't forget, at this early stage of the race. But coming up to the end of the opening lap, it is Bert Langevin hanging on to the advantage, but he's under huge pressure from second Anders Fjordbach. And look who is in 3rd place, Peter Cox, the very quick Dutch driver. We've not really seen that much of him in the championship this year. He missed the Monza races after the car was withdrawn. He got into a bit of strife and a penalty at Hockenheim. Didn't get a drive in race 1 here either, but now that very quick, very light KTM, he's right up behind the Audis. Battle the power then as they accelerate up towards turn 4. Running in 4th place at the moment is Stefan Rossini. Running in 5th place is Michael Vergers in the Porsche. but it's 3 for the race lead right now. This is the view on board with Fjordbak. Great noise from that Audi engine as again he has a look to try and unsettle Langin down towards turn 8. But this time Bert is wise to the move. So Bert Langin hangs onto the race lead and Anders Fjordbak for high-class racing tucked up there behind him in second spot. Now up towards turn 9, the King, and then heavier braking, turn into the corner proper at turn 10. In the background, Peter Cox runs third, fourth, Stefan Rossina, fifth, Michael Vergers, and sixth is Luca Piri. They had a great battle in race 1, as indeed did their co-drivers, with the Porsche being ahead of the Audi until it really mattered. Vergers dropped into the gravel late race and lost a couple of spots as a consequence. But again, Fjordbak looked all over the back of Langin, and Peter Cox being able to use the nimbleness of the KTM to good effect, closes in certain places, loses out when the power comes in. Fjordbak dancing over the curb there at 15, and now into the left at the end of the lap. Don't run too wide and catch those so-called yellow banana curbs, because they're going to really unsettle the car, risk damaging it like Cedric Lima had in race 1. And Lima at the moment, he's down in 7th place in the Lamborghini, but leading his class. Anders Fjordbak, fastest lap of the race, perhaps no surprise there, as the cars make the run now out of turns 2 and 3. There is Cox, so the KTM that he shares with the 60-year-old Norwegian driver Einar Thorsten, going very strongly, as indeed it did in Thorsten's hands in race 1. And because it didn't finish the first race, it's got no pit stop penalty either, so that car, barring disaster, is what hit it in race 1, should be good for this. Fjordbak on the power, he's almost on the tail of Langin, but not quite close enough, as Langin does an absolute best first sector to try to stretch that margin. Up towards turn 9 now. Hard braking from Anders Fjordbak, now into turn 10, and Langin goes a little bit deeper into the corner. Fjordbak tries to tighten the line and squirt up the inside, but he can't do it. The run now down towards the kink at turn 11, and you see here where the power kicks in, Peter Cox has fallen back, but through the twiddly bits at the end of the lap, he's going to be back with them. Fjordbak there has done the fastest lap of the race. 4 victories out of 5 races to that blue and white Audi, 1 out of 5 to 81 ahead of it. Under braking again, Fjordbak clawing back the lost time against Bert Langin in the lead. Fjordbak delivering great pictures here as he chases down the leader into turn 16. Misano, of course, a very popular motorbike circuit. It's named after the late Marco Simoncelli, and hence it has the low curbs that you need for a motorbike circuit. Great for bikes, invite the cars to cut them. So you'll find a lot of curb use around here, and inevitably track limits are a constant talking point. Penalties at certain parts of the circuit, as there, another good KTM battle goes through. Number 7 is Evren Sveshka, and it's Hans-Joachim Stuck behind him. They are running in 8th and 9th places at the moment. Stuck needing to get on with the job here and try and get past Speska for 2nd in the AM class. If you're wondering how Hans Stuck qualifies to be an AM, it's all an age thing now. He's what, 72? And the Le Mans winner, Grand Prix racer, touring car legend, you name it, the CV goes on and on and on. Hans Stuck is running 9th overall, ahead of by some margin Hubert Trunkenpoltz in another of the many KTM crossbows that have been built for this GT2 category. Stuckey lines up to have a go and does go through on the inside line at turn 8, and that puts him now 8th overall. So Hans Stuck goes through, picks up the spot, and now tries to accelerate clear as the cars blast their way up front down towards turn 11 once more through Curvoni. There is Anders Fjordbak, and he still can't really get onto the tail properly of Bert Langin in order to have a go. Again, they've managed to escape from Peter Cox's clutches for the moment. Fjordbak hard at work once more, 3rd gear, 4th heading into turn 15, onto the power. Clamber over the curb and have to get themselves back on the racing line and all settled again for that corner of turn 16. The fast pit straight over the line. Fjordbak last time was 4/10 of a second back. This time, as they break the beam, the gap down a little between them once more to 0.268 of a second. Fjordbak has done the fastest lap of the race now, a 1:37.683, closing onto the back of Langin, who was a couple of tenths slower last time around. Now Fjordbak now looks like he's much the quicker. Is there a gap? There is a gap on the inside there going up towards 4 and 5, the so-called Rio curve, but he couldn't get up the inside properly there. for the race lead. Bert Langevin versus Anders Fjordbach. The two Audis, different teams, PK versus High Class. And for PK Car Sport, Bert Langevin hangs on to the race and indeed the Pro-Am Cup lead. Anders Fjordbach looks for a way by all the time, trying to unsettle Langevin, just force an error out of him, but it was a win that both Anders Fjordbach and Mark Patterson, his co-driver, did not expect in race one. Right now, they're looking a lot more committed to the cause, aren't they? Because Fjordbach is becoming ever more committed, showing his nose more regularly now, trying to distract that Langevin, trying to force a mistake out of him. Heading up towards turn 14 then, the gap comes right down under braking once again. Anders Fjordbach closes. And they've got effectively another 11 minutes of this relentless battle before the pit window opens. Langevin under pressure. This is somebody that's done marathon stints in the Spa 24 hours and won it, the Zolder 24 hours and won it, so he knows how to tick off consistent lap after consistent lap. Fjordbach still there in second spot. Peter Cox 1.7 seconds adrift of Fjordbach in third. Closing up again at turn 4 is Fjordbach onto the back of Langevin. It's all rather elasticated, this gap between the two of them. Fjordbach looking the quicker, but he just can't prise open the door. Bounces over the curb then, bounces out wide as well. And now he has got the run, he's got the momentum, he's got the inside line down to turn 8. And Fjordbach is almost level. He's got the tighter line for the corner. He's going to have a go, and he goes through on the inside line to grab the lead. Anders Fjordbach has done it. Good move under braking. Goes wide. Langevin comes back at him, but he's going to be on the wrong line, the outside line for 9, unless he can dive across, which he thought about, but he can't do. New race leader. Anders Fjordbach goes by, picks up the advantage now from Bert Langevin as they make the run once again down towards Corvoni at turn 11. And now that Fjordbach has hit the front, is he going to be able to get away? That, I suspect, will be his game plan. And in a way, it's the expectation, although Langevin last time did the fastest lap of the race, but that extra momentum carried coming out of turn 7 really did help on this lap. Anders Fjordbach, because it gave him that run to 8 to get the race lead. But Langevin is slotting back in behind him. He's not going to take this line down. 10 minutes gone out of the 50. There is Peter Cox, still in third place. The best of the KTM drivers right now, ahead of Stefan Rossina. Up towards the timing line they come. As the leaders head past the pits, down towards turn 1. The margin just under 7/10 of a second between them. Peter Cox runs third, fourth Stefan Rossina, fifth there Michael Vergers, sixth is Luca Piri. That Porsche has been struggling for balance really over the course of the weekend. It's a bit of an understeering car, giving Aurelius Rustica and Michael Vergers a bit of a handful. But right now, the Dutch driver, Michael Vergers, is coping with it well. Goes a little bit wide coming out of turn 3, which he was doing in race 1. And just as in race 1, finding a perennial playmate in Audi number 88. Luca Piri at the wheel of it. That's the car that he shares with Stefan Rattel. So Stefan will go up against Aurelius Rustica in the second stint, as now Piri tries to do a Fjordbach and get up the inside on the run down towards turn 8, but he couldn't quite do it. Here they come almost together, and that's a slow KTM. Is that Peter Cox ahead of them? I think it is. So Peter Cox with a car that, does that look low on a corner? Has he got a puncture? I think he might have. Front right, Peter Cox has slowed right down, and it looks like it's a punctured tyre. Front right, let's have a look as he comes out of the corner. It's either a puncture or suspension damage, but it certainly looks low. Now, it is possible, if you bash the curb once too often around here, that you can damage the suspension. We'll see when it gets to the pit. So, Gemma, you're going to have Peter Cox in relatively soon with a somewhat hobbled KTM, and straight away that gives now Stefan Rossina third, fourth Vergers, and fifth Luca Piri. Also had a drama for Hubert Trunkenpohl some way back. He's had a spin, that's why he lost the time early on, incidentally. Right, leaders over the line, and Fjordbach now is getting away. 1.6 seconds clear he is of Bert Langevin. Rossina runs third, and then now up into fourth place should be, there he is, Michael Vergers. Fifth is Luca Piri as they go by. And it's sixth spot should now become Cedric Lima, the leading AM in the Lamborghini, but is Cox going to be able to rejoin after a pit stop is the next question. Peter is having a pretty rotten time in this championship. He's either not getting a drive, he's either getting a penalty, or he's getting some problem that hampers his progress, but he's not getting a clear race, whereas Luca Piri wants a clear run now at the Porsche Aurelius Rustica, just ahead of him. There is Cox coming into the pit lane. I'm leaning more towards suspension damage at the moment rather than a punctured tyre, looking at that car again just briefly as it went past the camera. There at turn 8, Luca Piri in the Audi. Chases after Michael Vergers, who's way out wide over the curb there. Verge, who is the driving standards advisor for the British GT Championship. Keeping at bay 88 right now as they go through turn 10. So Porsche versus Audi. Amazingly, it's the only Porsche we've got in the GT2 series at the moment, but I'm sure there are more on the way, and the way that Michael Vergers continues to pound on in this car underlines just how competitive it can be. So Vergers up towards turn 13-14 section now. Anders Feuerbach has done the fastest lap of the race, and there is Luca Piri turning his way down towards turn 15. Past the Rebellion banners in the background, and now towards 16 as again both of them rattle over the curb. So Peter Cox is in the pit lane, but I rather fear that might be where he's staying in the KTM. The leaders go by once more, and Peter Cox with the Reiter Engineering run KTM is still in the pits, and as I say, he can't take this as his mandatory pit stop because the window isn't open, so all the time being lost now. Even if the car does rejoin, he's got to make that mandatory stop when the window opens. For third place, Vergers keeping at bay, fourth place, Vergers keeping at bay Luca Piri, but only just. Piri there got oh so close to getting into the back of the Porsche, had to bail as there. Vergers using his big bite of curb on the inside, coming through turn 6 into the kink at 7, and the run now down towards turn 8. Out of that left-hander up towards Tramonto at turn 10. But Michael Vergers doing everything he possibly can to preserve Aurelius Rustica's Porsche ahead of the Piri Rattal Audi. And Peter Cox, I do think, is a retirement because he's been in the pits now for over 2 minutes. There is the best placed KTM then, Stefan Rossina, in a car that was in the gravel in race 1 when Seni Semeni put it off the road. So at the moment, it's going nicely, that car in the hands of Rossina. There is Cedric Lima, Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion, leading the AM class, the AM Cup, and the Target Racing Lamborghini going strongly. Mauro Casadei, another hugely experienced racer, will take over that. Lima not being modest with the track limits, is he? They're way out wide coming through turn 14 to 16, bouncing again over the curb and back on again. Vergers versus Piri, and actually the way that Lima is going, yes, he's lapping quicker than those two because they're holding each other up now by squabbling. So Cedric Lima is bringing down that gap as he goes over the timing line. Barely a season goes by without Cedric racing a Lamborghini in something somewhere, largely in Super Trofeo, but he has had the old outing in the GT Sports Club, and now it's good to have him coming into GT2 as well. It's not a pucker GT2 car under the regulations necessarily, but if there's interest from Lamborghini customers, I'm sure one will be built and regulations can be modified to let the car in. As Vergers oh so nearly leaves the door wide open there, to the inside looked Luca Piri, he wasn't able to find a way through. So once again, it is the Porsche that keeps the Audi at bay. And once again, with a little cheeky flash of the lights up to have a go there, comes Luca Piri, but the door is closed and Vergers hangs on the position. So through they turn. There you have the Porsche, Michael Vergers at the helm of it. Apart from touring cars, perhaps, it's not like Michael hasn't raced over the years. First came to prominence in the late 1980s in the UK as a real star in Formula Ford 1600, won the British Championship, and has continued to race in sports cars and single-seaters and GT cars year after year after year. Still oddly underrated by many, but a class act. And there Luca Piri pounds on behind him. Again, so cavalier with the track limits there is Cedric Lima, coming out of turn 13 that was, bouncing way wide over the curbing. Now the leaders have gone through. They are about, I would offer you, 2 laps away from the pit window opening. Therefore, 4th place, Vergers goes through. The rather anonymous 3rd is Stefan Rossina, who doesn't have any playmates. He's not catching the leaders. He's not being caught by this battle either in 4th place. But don't forget that when the window is closed, you're going to have the second drivers, in some cases slower, in other cases less experienced. And if anybody's going to make an error, you could argue it would be the AMS. It doesn't necessarily follow that's going to be the case, as there Vergas goes out wide and Pirri has a go at him, but there is potentially more that can happen in the AMS stint, partly through ability, partly through experience. But right now, Luca Pirri is back onto the tail of the Porsche. 88 is going to be handed over to Stefan Rattel. The Porsche will be handed over to Aurelius Rustica. And Cedric Lima is almost with him, isn't he, there? His last lap was half a second quicker than that of Luca Pirri, so chunks being taken out by the Lamborghini, currently running in 6th spot. So there, the race leaders accelerate through, out for 4th place. Vergas goes by, and again it's another elasticated gap. You see how Vergas suddenly has stretched it as Luca Pirri has lost a few tenths in that middle sector. Brakes glowing now as we start to get to dusk. The light is fading. Cedric Lima is not fading in 6th place though. Again, he's way out wide over those curbs. Another lap notched off by the race leader. That's 11 in the book for Anders Fjordbach, and certainly now Bert Langin is falling away. Now, Peter Cox out of the race. What happened? Gemma Scott has found him to find out the answer. Gemma.
Peter, what happened?
Well, I pushed too hard. I tried to follow the 2 leading cars. You know, he had a little bit more pace on us, and we had a bit of a disappointed weekend till now. Maybe I'd done 4 laps before we went into qualifying, so it was a bit. So I had a good start, and I tried to keep up, you know, and I just overdid it a bit, and I hit the yellow sausage.
Yeah.
And yeah, then something broke in the suspension.
Okay. Difficult.
Tough luck.
But little bit.
Shame for the guys because they had a lot of work, especially after the first race.
Yeah.
And as I said, leading up to the race, you know, we had to convert this car because the KTM you can race in different configurations, but you know the team has to do all the work. And they did fantastically, I must say, and the car was now good in the race. As you could see, I was maybe 2 tenths too slow, and I tried to make up for that, and that didn't all along. So bad luck.
Well, bad luck, but thank you for talking to us.
Okay, ciao.
So a very honest Peter Cox. His error, he admits, fesses up, hit one of those yellow banana or yellow sausage curbs, which are put there to try and deter people from going wide, and in a sense you penalise yourself. Well, there is the ultimate penalty, damage suspension on Peter Cox's car. He's out of the race. And then there were 9 as they're going through. Luca Pirri back onto the tail of Vergas. 63, Cedric Lima is in 6th place, still well clear of Hans-Joachim Stuck in the AM class, over 9 seconds to the good. Now, up front, Anders Fjordbach is leading by 5 seconds. He has got to serve an extra 5 seconds in the pits over Bert Langin. In other words, it should be very, very close when they come back out, assuming that neither of them lose extra time through sloppy pit work. So 5-second advantage, but 5 seconds to be lost in the pits. So Langin is doing a good job of staying in the hunt here. Peter Gelling's less experienced than Mark Patterson, who will take the car over. There, again, Pirri versus Vergas as they come with the pit window now open up towards us, and to the inside line coming out of turn 6 goes Pirri. But again, Vergas uses the curve, fends him off. Luca Pirri on the outside got run out wide. That compromises him. It brings Lima even closer on the run through 7 down towards turn 8. And Michael Vergas, just as you might expect from a pro driver, throwing everything at this, doing everything he can to defend. He's on the limit. His stint is heading to an end, although you can expect the pros to stay into almost the end of the window, really. So Luca Pirri there dropping back into the clutches of Cedric Lima, who steadily has been closing and catching, and now, with a bit of a wobble there under braking, he's almost up on the back of Luca Pirri, and that's going to help Vergas, because if Pirri has to defend, it's going to distract him and allow the Porsche to get away. And look, that's exactly what's happening now. Suddenly that gap has really shot up between the two of them. Through goes Lima. The leader has gone by, so Fjordbach doing more and more laps. Into the pit lane, though, has come, there you can see Hubert Trunkenpoltz to give way to Klaus Angerhofer. So driver change to go on there. Race leader through. The gap now 6 seconds. So the longer Fjordbach stays out, the more the gap increases, the better his chances in the second stint, or the car's chances when in the hands of Mark Patterson. Bert Longchamp will have to serve 5 seconds, and bear in mind that the Luca Piri Audi has to serve 7. It means that Stefan Rattel is going to have quite a bit of a fight on his hands to get back onto terms with Aurelius Rustica. In comes Stucki, in comes Speschke, the KTMs then. So Chris Rosenberger will take over that one, the white and black number 24, and Christoph Ulrich will take over number 7, the Sportec Motorsport entry that arrives on its marks now. And look at Piri, he's brought the gap down again. More proof of how elasticated it is. It had just stretched, now it tumbles again. So the cars come through. 88 is Luca Piri. How many more laps is he going to do before he bails to give way to Stefan Rattel? He's on the tail, as you see, of Michael Vergers. So Vergers to give way to Aurelius Rustica. Fjordbach still leading Longchamp up front. Stefan Rossina hanging on to 3rd place. Again, the Audi with the brakes glowing heads up towards turn 13 and 14 here. This section of the circuit goes from kink to corner to hairpin virtually. Wriggles its way onto the pit straight, pit lane on the left where they come out of turn 16 now. And again, Vergers having to hang it on the line because Luca Piri is closing up once again. Another lap in the book. That time around, Michael Vergers does a 38.5, but a 37.9 from Luca Piri. The Audi is the quicker car. Fjordbach, fastest lap of the race still. That has not been battered. There is the leader, lest we forget. And so for high-class racing, Fjordbach leads. Vergers, again, is way wide coming out of turn 3. And again, that gives Piri a chance to challenge. And this time he's up alongside him and he's through. He's finally done it. Or has he? Vergers, again, uses all of the curve on the inside at turn 6. But Luca Piri is ahead. Now Vergers lines up for a move on the inside line. A wave to apologise for any contact there from Michael Vergers, who's going to come back ahead of him. And so the Porsche, good in a straight line. Now, does he get it slowed down in time for turn 8? The answer is yes. So Vergers retakes the position. Great battle that these two cars have had, not just in this stint, but all day. Doesn't matter who's been driving them, the two cars have been inseparable, whether it was in the first race or in this. So Vergers it is, back ahead. After all that hard work by Luca Piri, it lasted for, what, half a straight? So Vergers is back through. 5.5 minutes effectively before the window shuts. They're going to be in soon as Piri bounces back on the inside line, benefiting from Vergers being up the curb, making a small error possibly, and now Piri does go through. Goes back ahead. This is Vergers' view. You see the Audi ahead. So Michael Vergers rattles over the curb out of turn 14. But look, as soon as Piri is ahead of him, he checks out, pulls away markedly. Going over the curbs. This is how briefly Luca Piri got ahead on the outside line at turn 6, but just way up the curb. But he got a good exit, and that Porsche quick in a straight line, able to pounce back on the inside line. This is how Vergers saw it. Up the curb. There's the Audi, but Michael Vergers lines up for the move on the inside line. Thank you very much, Luca, for giving me racing room. I'll have that place back. Right, 4.5 minutes before the pit window closes. There's Anders Fjordbach, who still leads the way. And behind him, where is now Bert Longchamp? We've got one or two of the KTMs out of sequence. Cedric Lima is in to give way to Mauro Casadei. So that's the AM leading Lamborghini. Anders Fjordbach, in the meantime, holds sway up front. So the high-class racing Audi steams through, but it's impressive the way that Fjordbach, having hit the front, has been able to build the lead. You see how much curb he takes there, coming out of turn 15. All about keeping the momentum of the car up. Those are the yellow sleeping policeman style curbs that Peter Cox was referring to. They are put in behind some of the curbs to be a deterrent, not to go too wide. If you rattle over them, as you see, it's the ultimate penalty. You damage your own car. Casadei gets away in 63 then. Down the pit road it goes. Fjordbach right now looks as though win number 5 might be in the post. Down the pit road comes Stefan Rossina to give way to Seti Sarmini in the number 16 True Racing by Reiter Engineering KTM, and Michael Vergers is in as well here. Look to morph into Aurelius Rustica. So there's the Porsche, stops on its marks. Liquid to go in, and a driver change too. Out gets Michael Vergers, and in gets Aurelius Rustica, the taller frame. And no doubt Michael is there to help with the belts, as a pro co-driver should do. The pit marshals come to have a look to make sure that the stop is being conducted as it should do, with the requisite number of personnel. Then the car controller looms into view with the board. When that's moved away, that's the release of the car. Fjordbach might squeeze another lap out of this, but would be very, very close to the wire. Let's see what he does, coming out of turn 15 then. And he is going to squeeze another lap out of it. So Anders Fjordbach maximising his time behind the wheel of the leading car. Bounces over those curbs on the exit of 16 up towards the line. So goes a lap up for the moment on the Porsche. And in the background, I think Bert Langevin is also staying out for as long as he possibly can. So the pit stop, 1 minute and 37. And a flying lap at the moment is the minute and 36.9. So effectively a pit stop is a lap round here. Now Luca Piri is yet to stop. There is 81, Bert Langevin. That's the quicker of the two against Peter Gellings. He is staying out for as long as he can, coming through turn 6 now. There's the leader, there's Anders Fjordbach, who's got to be in this time because there is not another lap before the window closes, as Luca Piri heads for the pit lane. And the patron, Stefan Rattel, will take over. Out gets Luca Piri, and with the belts moved aside, in gets Stefan. And it's the mechanics that will do the strapping in here rather than Luca Piri himself, but quite often the pro driver will help the AM, because not only does he play his part in the pit stop, but also while he's doing it, he can say this corner's slippery or the car's handling like that, or whatever useful information can be passed on. There's 33 then, the race leading car, which is Fjordbach, who I suspect this is his in lap because he's just done an absolute best middle sector. So his last hurrah shows how quick he is. And Anders Fjordbach comes then down to the pit lane now, heads from one side of the road to the other, down through the gears, gets to the 50 kph line, and now almost like cruise control kicks in, slowly motors down the pit road to give way to Mark Patterson. And also you're going to have this time Bert Langevin in to give way to Peter Gellings. There is the team getting ready for the car as Stefan Rattel blasts away. There is Bert Langevin into the pits. Peter Gellings ready to take over. So Bert Langevin will get out, the taller frame of Peter Gellings to jump in. There, back into the race goes number 88, Stefan Rattel at the wheel of it. So it's a very, very long pit lane before you're allowed to blast away. There's the pit outline. And now, up to speed goes Stefan Rattel. So what we really need to see after all the stops have cycled through is where that car is in relation to the Porsche. There's the answer, it's ahead. So Stefan Rattel has done it, he's got ahead. That pit stop was, let me see, 1 minute and 47, so that's about right. And what was the Porsche pit stop? 1 minute and 45. So yes, allowing for the fact that the Audi was ahead before the stops, it has stayed ahead. So Anders Fjordbach through into the pit lane to give way there. Mark Patterson at the helm of the car, back into the race it goes. Langevin to Gellings behind, and so Stefan Rattel has on the pit stops not only got it or stayed ahead of the Porsche, but he's also moved ahead of number 16, Stefan Rossina, giving way to Sedi Samini. Their pit stop was 10 seconds slower than it needed to be, and so the number 16 KTM has lost a place to Rattel Piri's Audi. Now there are the leaders. Look, Patterson versus Gellings. You see how that gap has come down, courtesy of the longer enforced success pit stop of 33. But you'll still lead the race. Away now blasts Mark Patterson, and Peter Gellings behind him is the man that's got to do the chasing. But in fairness, Mark Patterson is a very, very experienced racer. I'll be surprised if Gellings is able to close unless there's drama for the leading car. So all the pit stops are approved, if you like, by the stewards. They've all met the minimum pit stop time, so there's no drama there. What we do have is a good battle on the circuit, though, for fifth now between Aurelius Rustica and Mauro Casadei, who showed to have really good pace in race one. And you can see the way that Mauro is attacking, almost into the back of the Porsche. That forces him out deep through turn 2, but Mauro Casadei on his toes here. Look, as they pound their way once more towards us. This is turn 4-5, the approach now. The so-called Rio corner. And out wide goes Mauro Casadei, just completely ran out of road there. Braked as late as he dared, but too late. Tripped over the curb on the outside of the circuit. Through they go once more then. Porsche fending off the Lamborghini. So the leader's long gone. Mark Patterson to Peter Gellings. We'll look at the gap at the end of this lap, but I would imagine that it's going to stretch. And then you've got Sedi Samini in third place, now being chased by Stefan Rattel. This battle is for 5th. Aurelius Rustica just ahead of Mauro Casadei, but Casadei looking as though he might be able to make a move before long. Only 17 minutes in the race to go as the cars accelerate towards us again. Flash of flame from the Lamborghini on overrunners there. Casadei lines up to go through turn 13. That's where Lima was running wide earlier, and Casadei is really, really good on the brakes relative to Aurelius Rustica, who makes a little error mid-corner. The Porsche twitches, so if Casadei gets a good exit from the next 2 left-handers, he's going to be on for a move down the pit straight. It's Charles having a go on the inside at 16, so Mauro thinks better of it, but as they come up toward the line now, Mauro Casadei right there in the wheel tracks. Casadei goes through, and actually not close enough. Again, that Porsche, as we saw in stint 1, able to pull clear in a straight line. It might not have the best balance through the corners and be a bit of a handful. Witness what's happening through turns 1, 2 and 3, but in a straight line, for rare occasions it can stretch its legs. It's got good power. This is where Casadei went wide a lap ago. He's caught back up, but again can't wriggle away around the outside of the Porsche. Goes for the inside now, almost up alongside, gets his nose chopped off and stands on the brakes. Mauro Casadei then in the Lamborghini howls his way down towards turn 8. Up front, the lead gap is 3.3 seconds. Patterson to Gellings, and Peter is quicker in sectors 1 and 2 on this lap. So actually, contrary to expectation, the more experienced Patterson ain't getting away from Peter Gellings. There is Casadei up the curb, and now alongside the Porsche, coming out of turn 10. He'll have the inside line for the next 3-4 corners, but the Porsche has the grunt to get into straight line, and Aurelius Rustica is able to maintain track position. It's like a dragster, that Porsche. Give it a straight, it's in its element. Corners, hates them. To the outside line goes Casadei. Off the racetrack goes Casadei. Keeps his foot in and trying to go around the outside into the first element now of turn 13-14 sequence. He's going to be on the outside line now for 15. Has he got the job done? He has! Excellent move by Mauro Casadei. Round the outside, and he's done it straight away. Gaps the Porsche with 15 minutes on the clock. That was brave, brave stuff, and it worked. Now, there are the race leaders. The gap was down to 2.1 seconds last time when they came past the pits. Mark Patterson still being caught markedly by, in second spot, Peter Gellings. '81, the Audi PK Car Sport entry. Peter Gellings at the wheel of it, and the task is a simple one. Catch that blue and white Audi, that pesky car that keeps on winning races. It is, out of the 5 races thus far, 4-1 to the Fjordbach Patterson car compared to this Longchamp Gellings entry. Now on this lap, interestingly, Mark Patterson is responding, only by hundredths, but he's responding. He's looking fractionally better in the sectors. Up towards the timing line now comes Mark Patterson. And Sedi Samini still hanging on to third place. Is he going to benefit from what's going on ahead? So there you have Mark Patterson through in the lead of the race. The gap 1.7 seconds last time. 13 minutes on the clock, 21 laps done, and in sector 1 this time, Patterson is about 3/10 quicker than that car. So maybe it just took him a little bit longer to get comfortable, to get into his stride. Now that he has done so, that margin is extending. There going through is the race-leading car, the high-class racing Audi up front, and Gellings just to the eye now, starting to fall back a little bit further. Now Mark Patterson turns his way towards turn 14, but is he going to be caught? Can he be caught by Peter Gellings before the end? It's a big ask, to be fair. There is 81. So Peter Gellings runs second, but the gap 1.7 went up by 3/10 in sector 1, went up by another couple of hundredths in the second sector. And as Feuerbach, remember, doing the fastest lap early on in his stint, and his car still leads the way. The leaders go by, 12 minutes on the clock. The gap still hovers around the 1.7 second mark. In third place, Stefan Rossina started. Sedi Samini is now behind the wheel, and that car is a long way adrift of these two. I'm waiting for it to cross the line, and then you can see the gap between it and Stefan Rattel behind, because on the last lap there wasn't much to choose between the third and fourth place cars in terms of lap time. Now look at Gellings. Is he any closer this time? Sector 1 says yes, he is by 4/10. So Peter Gellings having another go here to try to get back onto terms with the leader. Is 81. So the second placed Audi in this rather seesaw battle between the two catches on one lap, drops away on the next. What have we got left? 11 minutes still, so looking at 5 laps before the end of the race as the leaders go through. So Mark Patterson, the South African who's done a lot of his racing in the States, a lot of it in Europe, he's had a few seasons in British GT as well. He holds sway at the moment with Peter Gellings trying to come back at him. It was 1.7 seconds at the start of the lap. To the eye it looks less. The timing data says it was down in sector 1 and down another couple of tenths in sector 2. So Peter Gellings now is almost within striking distance. Up to the line they come, past the pits they go once again. The gap 7/10, so a full second pulled back by Peter Gellings on that last lap, and that's very impressive indeed. So Peter, less experienced than the race leader Mark Patterson, going very strongly indeed now, bringing down the gap. And again, look at the braking here for turns 4 and 5, very nearly onto the tail of the leading car. Gellings looks at the inside line. I thought for a moment he backed out of that, but it was just the way that the car was positioned on the circuit, I think. But Patterson makes a little error there, goes deep into the corner. Peter Gellings not able to take full advantage of that, because he too, judging his pace against that of the leader, also went deep into the corner. But now maybe Mark Patterson is starting to feel the pressure, just looking fractionally more ragged as they come through. Clock ticks on down into the last 9 minutes and change of the race now, as the race leaders blast their way up towards turn 14. Is Patterson responding here? Another good fight going on lower down. Christoph Ulrich has got himself onto the back of Aurelius Rustica. Here's the race leading duel coming through once again. So the leaders separated once more by half a second. Not going to be easy for Peter Gellings to find a way past. Mark Patterson there a little bit deeper through turn 2. Gellings using the curb, so he's the one with a slightly easier task at the moment, the hunter rather than the hunted. Then Concertina again coming into turn 4, so Gellings applying the pressure, trying to force that mistake out of Mark Patterson that might just open the door. It's nail-biting stuff for the teams in the pit lane, this. There's nothing they can do. It all down really now to Mark Patterson. It's his race to lose. He's got the advantage. Can he hold up 81 Audi for another 8 minutes? As to the outside line goes Gellings. He's going to go through, but can he make the corner? He's ahead, he's wide, but he's done it, has he? He does go wide through the corner, but he has made the move stick. Fabulous stuff round the outside. Hat tip Peter Gellings. That was a great move. Through turn 9, that little kink. Now set the car up for 10. Don't get it wrong now, Peter. Don't go deep through the corner. He doesn't. He gets back towards the line. And so Peter Gellings, with under 8 minutes to go, as the light fades fast at Misano, leads the race. That was a great move round the outside. There, look, Aurelius Rustica is under attack because he's got Christoph Ulrich up behind him. Ulrich's second in the AM Cup at the moment. Through they turn. So the race leaders make the run now up towards the end of lap 25. This battle, which is for 6th position, but they're in different classes, don't forget, is coming now towards turn 14, and there's no way that the KTM can squeeze by there. Further back here, look, Cedric Lima giving the car to Mauro Casadei. That has got ahead of Stefan Rattel, I think I'm right in saying. So let's see. Yes, there is Rattel behind him. So Mauro Casadei has gone up into 4th place. I've forgotten how quick Mauro Casadei can be, actually, but he did a very, very good job in race 1. And again, that car just looks so purposeful with Mauro at the wheel of it. So when he used to race in FIA GT, it was normally in backmarker Porsches that Mauro had to sort of pay for the drive-in, but going really well here today. As another place change there, Christoph Ulrich finally gets through on the inside of Aurelius Rustica, but look at the Porsche's grunt in a straight line. He gets squeezed towards the pit wall, elbows out. Christoph Ulrich is not for being overtaken. He's worked hard to gain that place, so Aurelius Rustica has to contend with a rather wide KTM that darts its way through turns 1, 2 and 3. See how nimble it is. Look, gets away through the corners, whereas the Porsche, struggling for the balance and the ideal setup, is nowhere at the end of that sequence. This is how Aurelius Rustica lost out, diving through on the inside, Christoph Ulrich. And then that was a squeeze, and you heard, saw the leg. Aurelius Rustica had to lift for fear of contact there. So whether that's enough to get the stewards excited, I wouldn't like to say. Another KTM pass. Up the inside line goes Chris Rosenberger. He was on pole for race 1. So Rustica, having lost 1 place to a pesky KTM, has just lost another, unless he can go around the outside up at turn 9, but he's on the dirtier line there, and that ain't going to work for him. So Chris Rosenberger goes through up into 7th place now. Peter Gellings, the race leader, has just gone on to his 27th lap of the race, ahead of Mark Patterson. Bouncing over the curb, Aurelius Rustica, 6th gear. Curb on the inside, curb on the outside. 5 minutes to go. Peter Gellings out of turn 4, out of turn 5 now, leads the way. There is Mark Patterson running in that 2nd spot, doing his level best to get onto terms and challenge for the lead again, but I just can't see it happening at the moment. Down towards turn 8 they come. This, of course, the section of the circuit where time was lost earlier. The lead was lost by Mark Patterson. Down through the gears goes the chasing now, Mark Patterson. So he has become the hunter, but actually Gellings has got the pace to get away. The gap was 0.8 of a second last time. Under 4.5 minutes to go. A lap at the moment in these darker conditions is 1 minute and 40 seconds. Mark Patterson with the trailing throttle there, going up towards turn 13, now towards 14. You see it gets tighter and tighter, kink to corner here. Back on the power, through the left. Turn 16 beckons, that will be another lap tipped off. It's the last 4 minutes now. Over the timing line goes Peter Gellings. So the margin was 0.8. It's now 0.9. He is edging away, but only little by little. It's not a vast increase. There is Sedi Samini, who's having one of his better runs, actually. It might not look it because he's a long way back from the leaders, but the KTM is keeping out of trouble. And Sedi Samini accelerates now up towards the end of the lap. steady job in that car as he heads past the pits once again. So Salmini goes through. There are the race leaders with 81 still being able to maintain the advantage here. So Peter Gellings clear up front. Mark Patterson using all of the curb in his efforts to stay in touch. Can he force an error out of that leading car? For the moment, the answer is no, because hanging on to position is Peter Gellings out of turn 10 now. So with 1:40 to a lap, are they going to squeeze 2 more out of this? I would offer you the answer being yes, because looking at where they are on the circuit and relative to the clock, 2 more laps at the end of this. Out of turn 14 now. So Mark Patterson, having led, looks like he's going to have to settle for second place. A real shame for Anders Fjordback, because he did everything that was feasibly asked of him in the first stint, but Mark Patterson has just not quite been able to repel the challenge of Peter Gellings. Over the line they come, but Mark having another go. 2 more laps, over the line he heads. 9/10 of a second it was, down towards turn 1. Half a second it is, so the gap has come right down. There, Mark Patterson brakes late, goes a little bit deep into turn 4 and 5, and that compromises the exit, so not able to make a proper bid coming out of the corner. Through there goes Mark Patterson then, so Mark, who's raced many a GT car, many a sports prototype, whether it's been in Europe or America, uses all of the curving at turn 8 in his quest to keep up the momentum and stay as best he can on the tail there of the race-leading Audi. But for the moment, Peter Gellings clear up front. These 2 Audis proving to be very evenly matched throughout this race, but Mark Patterson now just dropping away a little bit, because 3/10 quicker in sector 1 was Gellings. He was 4/10 quicker in sector 2. So the lead is building all the while now. There is time for 1 more lap at the end of this. And there, using the curb, setting the car up for turn 16, Peter Gellings. Right, 1 more lap, and then it's win number 2 of the season, potentially, barring any mistakes now. Over the line he goes. So onto the last lap goes Peter Gellings. Really good drive, not only to catch, but also that move he pulled round the outside. Mighty impressive. A job well done. There through in second place, Mark Patterson. He'll be frustrated, of course, but he gave it a good effort, that's for certain. So through goes for the last time out of turn 5, Peter Gellings. The AM class still being led by Maro Casadei, who is nearly 7 seconds ahead of Christoph Ulrich, who's also got past Stefan Rattel now for 5th overall. So Peter Gellings in Audi number 81 turns through turn 8. Looking strong now as far as the race win is concerned. Mark Patterson has tried hard, but it ain't happening for him. And so as the cars now make the run once more up through the turn 13, 14, almost never-ending series of corners, it's going to be a win for the PK Car Sport. Audi in the lead. There is number 33, Mark Patterson. Has tried everything he can, but it ain't going to happen, is it? It's going to be second place for that, and a second win of the year for their 81. So Peter Gellings, 2 corners to go. Out of 14, sets the car up, and this is going to be a very sweet victory, because it's been a long time coming since that win at Monza for here, number 81. Bert Langevin started. They bounced back from a dreadful pit stop in race 1 as well. The checkered flag is ready, and so Peter Gellings and Bert Langevin win at Misano in race 6 of the Fanatec GT2 European Series. Second goes the way of Mark Patterson and Anders Fjordback, and there for third, Stefan Rosina started. Sedi Samini brings the car home in 3rd place, the best of the KTMs. In 4th, it is going to be the winning AM. So Maro Casadei in the Lamborghini is on his way up towards the timing line. There is Sedi Samini, but he has been caught by Casadei. Mauro is going to win his class. He's not quite going to get ahead, so the KTM, having a triumphant flash of the lights as it comes across the line, has oh so nearly been caught by Mauro Casadei for position. 5th goes the way of Christoph Ulrich, who's going to be 2nd of the AMS. 6th, Stefan Rattel over the line. And then 7th, Chris Rosenberger in his KTM. But Mauro Casadei doing a very good job on that last lap, just about getting within striking distance in order to have a go at the 3rd place KTM. One more lap, it might well have been a different story for 3rd place. But well done, Peter Gellings, not only for that drive, but in particular that move. Very, very impressive indeed. Brave stuff round the outside to grab the advantage and take a 2nd victory of the season. The winning margin in the end, 1.7 seconds between the top 2. And the drivers will shortly make their way to the pit lane to Parc Fermé and then to the podium. And we can have a look at how they came across the line. A win then for the PK Car Sports Audi, the car in the hands of Peter Gellings and Bert Langin, from Mark Patterson and Anders Fjordbach in 2nd place. And then for 3rd, Sedi Samini and Stefan Rossina. Mauro Casadei and Cedric Leimer taking 4th and winning the AMS from Christoph Ulrich and Adrian Spechka. 6th, Stefan Rattel and Luca Piri, ahead of the 3rd AM car, that of Chris Rosenberger and Hans-Joachim Stuck. 8th, Aurelius Rustiker and Michael Vergers, ahead of Klaus Angerhofer and Hubert Trunkenpolz, the one we didn't have getting to the end, the KTM of Einar Thorsen and Peter Cox. So that is the provisional result, barring anything that's lurking in the system. I don't think there's much for the officials to look at. But as the light fades at Misano, a good race and a good drive, certainly by Peter Gellings, then to overhaul the leading Audi. Bert Langin gets his winner's cap, and in a moment or two we'll be able to start the celebrations with Peter Gellings, who arrives into Parc Fermé. And then hopefully come and have a word with us, but Bert Langin finding that a very sweet win.
Really good.
Peter Gellings received by the PK Car Sport team. Well done, says Bert. Rattles the roof of the car. In comes the KTM. Sedi Samini down the pit lane to the Parc Fermé area. So Peter Gellings says, well done, Bert. They've done it. Great drive by the pair of them. So Bert Langin, all smiles under the mask. Last time we heard from him, I think. Gemma Scott is down there.
But a fantastic result. We can see how delighted you are with that.
Yeah, I'm driving 25 years and winning never. You get not used to winning, so I'm always extremely happy when we win. And also, Peter did a great job. To be honest, he's driving 1.5 years, so to push like this. Also, it was not easy with Fjordbach. He's really quick. I beat him in the qualifying. It was already a surprise, but then in the race he was every time 1/10. But it was a great race. We won the race and I'm very happy.
Absolutely. Let's grab a quick word with Peter as well. Peter, you pushed really, really hard, and once you got past, you made a great gap.
Yeah, I had him in my sights, and the guys in the team said, come on, keep pushing, you're faster, go, go. And every time I came an inch closer, I started getting more and more motivated, and I wanted to pass him, get revenge for all the things we did wrong. But now we got what we deserved. First place.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Congratulations. Well done.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Well, Peter Gellings did do a great move to get the race lead, and a great battle we've had between these two Audis, not just here, but all season. But the high-class racing, the blue and white Audi of Anders Fjordbach and Mark Patterson, has been the stronger car over the year. Its results confirm that, but it's really good that 81 has been able to race so competitively and indeed take a race win. Not to decry the efforts of Fjordbach and Patterson, but it's just good for the championship that the domination has been interrupted. And Peter Gellings, I think, will have his confidence boosted by that, as well as Bert Langin makes the point. He's only done a season and a half of racing. There is Mauro Casadei.
We'll try our best to speak English. Congratulations, a class win and a fantastic result.
Well, I wish, I'm very happy, of course. It's 5 years that I don't race any car, after so many years is not easy. And the GT2 class I like so much. Only 10 cars, but I am sure people will understand. Like in the time don't understand GT4, like in the time don't understand GT1 and then understand. I am sure GT2 will be the next step.
It's fantastic racing and you guys deserve that win.
Thank you very much.
Well done.
Thank you.
Mauro Casadei, who, as he says, hasn't raced for 5 years, great character. And you wouldn't think he hadn't raced for 5 years, the way that he was hustling on in that Lamborghini. It was 5 years worth of enthusiasm in those two races that came pouring out. Great to see. So the drivers then making their way to the podium. There is another race about to take place here at Misano for the local saloon car series. So the backdrop for the podium is going to be of a busy saloon car grid, but the winning drivers making the run up towards the podium very shortly for the Pro-Am and the Am categories. Let's just look back on that race. It began with the Audis going toe-to-toe from the start line. Bert Longcham's pole position being converted into the early race lead. Anders Fjordbach challenging on the outside line, but he couldn't quite find a way through, so he had to slot in behind. Peter Cox ran third in those early stages, and Michael Vergers in the Porsche in the body of the field trying to keep out of the way of KTMs and find a gap, but the Porsche not quite so hot through the corners, great in a straight line, but getting away up the road ahead was Luca Piri in his Audi. An early drama as around went Hubert Trunkenpolz. Didn't do much for his tyres, but at least he kept out of the wall and got the KTM back into the race as, up the inside of Longchamp, forced Fjordbach, tried to make the move, didn't work, tried again a few laps later. Hard braking down towards turn 8, and that time it did pay off. Michael Vergers battling with the Luca Piri Audi as they came across Peter Cox. Vergers having to take evasive action. Cox heading for the pits with broken suspension. That was him done. And then eventually, Luca Piri got himself onto the back of Vergers as the pit window opened. KTM was in first of all, Hans Stuck and Christoph Ulrich in. Luca Piri briefly got himself up past Michael Vergers, but Vergers on the curve and in a straight line with the speed was able to go back through. Mauro Casadei running out of room, running out of racetrack in the second stint. Now this was the move of the race. Peter Gellings round the outside at turn 8 to take over the race lead. Great stuff. Aurelius Rustiger lost out to Christoph Ulrich's fleet KTM, and when the Porsche tried to retaliate, Ulrich didn't give him a lot of room. To the checkered flag though came Audi number 81, Peter Gellings, and Bert Longchamp taking a second win of the season with victory in race 2 here in the dusk at Misano. Sadi Samini and Stefan Rossina taking third, just ahead of the Am-winning Lamborghini there of Mauro Casadei and Cedric Lima. What a great effort by Peter Gellings and Bert Longchamp. Victory as the drivers now make their way up onto the podium. Sadi Samini has had a pretty rotten season thus far with some damage at Hockenheim, for example. Takes third place with Stefan Rossina. There for second place, Mark Patterson and Anders Fjordbach. The race winners for the second time this year, Bert Longchamp and Peter Gellings, make their way to the top step of the podium. The PK Car Sport team ready to celebrate and do so with the national anthem. A win at Monza, a win at Misano for Bert Longchamp and Peter Gellings. More Italian races, please, they might argue. But the victory goes their way. Masks off for the cameras. And let's have a look at what that does to the championship. Anders Fjordbach and Mark Patterson now 130 points. Peter Gellings and Bert Longchamp 104. Michael Vergers and Aurelius Rustiger come next on 82. Luca Piri and Stefan Rattel are fourth ahead of Sadi Samini and Stefan Rossina. Jordan Witt and David Fairbrother have now backed out of the series to go and race in the Lamborghini Super Trofeo, sadly, but they're going to be overhauled next time by Peter Cox, no doubt. So the AM drivers making their way next towards the podium. There, the podium is ready. Podiums in theory these days much faster because you can collect your prize, your trophy, then step forward onto the podium. You don't need lots of dignitaries milling around and being hesitant to know who to present to. So as soon as the indication is given, out the drivers can come. So first of all, coming forward will be for third place, the Reiter team, Hans-Joachim Stuck and Chris Rosenberger. A tall frame of, what, 72-year-old Hans-Joachim Stuck. Chris Rosenberger with him. Hans's mask, I notice his dark blue and stars helmet livery. Then for second place, Christoph Ulrich and Adrian Speshka step forward, another of the KTM combos. Adrian Speshka then in the red overalls, in the black is Christoph Ulrich, who's been very, very rapid in that car. Really does take him by the scruff of the neck. But the class winners for Lamborghini there, Mauro Casadei and Cedric Lima. Mauro Casadei delighted with his win and can celebrate in style here on home soil. So there the trophy is held aloft. Under the masks there are some very smiley faces, and Mauro Casadei returning to racing after that 5-year absence. And I think he's right. I think as more people cotton on to GT2, it is going to grow in terms of the numbers of cars on track, and the racing we've had thus far should be a good advert for it. The teams have had a meeting over the course of the weekend to say, right, what can we do? How can we all work together to promote this? It's good for the teams to get more cars on the grid because it's more work for them, more revenue. And the drivers will be at Spa at the end of July for the next brace of races. We'll see you there. For now, from Misano, from Gemma Scott and David Addison, it's goodbye.